Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin met with Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu today in Tel Aviv, and during their meeting, he had this to say.
As you know, I was the guy that initially put the ISIS campaign together, and I know a lot about ISIS, and this is worse than what I saw with ISIS.
That's a powerful statement. Friends, this is worse than what he saw with ISIS. That is just stunning. Secretary Austin also announced that the Pentagon is already supplying munitions, air defense capabilities, and other equipment, as well as additional interceptors for the Iron Dome to save Israeli lives. And, you know, Israel is in an extremely critical situation right now, and that kind of support coming from Secretary Austin and the United States is extremely important. But what's to come next? Well, joining me now to discuss this and more is retired Lieutenant General Jerry Boykin. He serves as FRC's Executive Vice President. He spent the last 4 years of his brilliant 36-year military career serving as the Deputy Undersecretary of Defense for Intelligence. He was also one of the original members of the U.S. Army's Delta Force, which of course was established to focus on counterterrorism and hostage rescue operations. So, General Boykin, welcome back to Washington Watch. Always great to see you and have you on the program.
Thank you, Jody. I'm glad to be with you.
Well, let's jump into this. I don't know of anyone more equipped to deal with these issues right now than you. We've got the Israeli counterattack that obviously is already underway. The IDF is conducting raids both on Hezbollah and strongholds in the northern border up with Lebanon, and at the same time, a lot of strikes still taking place in Gaza. So from your perspective right now, looking at just the overall, what's your assessment of what's taking place so far?
I think most of what you see, other than the bombing and the shelling by the Israelis, I think most of what you see is a reconnaissance to try and locate the hostages. This is a big issue for the Israelis because there are Americans being held. And I can assure you that those people on the ground in there include some Americans out of our special operations that are experts at hostage rescue. But the key thing to hostage rescue is good intelligence, and I think that's what they're doing. The ones that we know are on the ground in there. They're in there looking for the hostages, and I pray that they'll find them before the end of this campaign in there in the Gaza Strip, because ultimately these people will be killed if we can't find them in time.
Yeah, and we all join you in those prayers, General. Yeah, I think part of this, and you tell me, the fact that Israel's called for civilians to evacuate from Gaza, that in itself is an indication, it seems to me, that they have intelligence. They know where Hamas is, which probably is where some of these hostages are, and that they have full intention of going after them. Are we barking up the right tree there?
Absolutely. They are going to have a ground war, and everybody needs to keep that in mind. And it's going to kill non-combatants, and there's no way to avoid it. But look, the Israelis have given them an opportunity now to get out. And I will tell you that this is the way they have to operate. And I saw them one time when I was living over there. I saw them one time go into the Gaza Strip and to blow up a house that had munitions and weapons and all. And they called the people that lived in that house. They called them on the phone. And they said, "We're coming. We know what you've got in there, and we're going to blow you up. Get out. You got 5 minutes. Get out." So the people in the house there ran to the top of the building, and they're all flat roof buildings over there. And that was to provoke the Israelis, thinking the Israelis would not shoot, would not fire on them. And then the Israelis brought in a helicopter, and in one corner, they fired off probably 15 or 20 rounds. And that got their attention, and they realized that this was your last chance. And the next thing you saw all of them at a double speed getting out of that building and getting away. And just as the munitions went off, and I'm telling you, I don't know what they had in there, but it was powerful. That's the way they have to operate. And I don't know of any other military in the Army or in our military that has to operate like that.
Yeah, and Israel is always, and just because of that reality, this is the way they operate. When they are telling civilians now to evacuate, I mean, that's serious. Like you just said, they better evacuate. But on the other hand, we have Hamas now preventing the evacuation. What happens in that scenario?
That's on the backs of Hamas. Hamas is responsible for everything that has happened up to this point. There is nothing, no one killed, nothing that Hamas is not responsible for, and we have to remember that. And I'll tell you, Jody, I'm really concerned now with all of these protests and everything, because this is the pattern that we've seen for decades, is everybody stands with Israel for the first week, and then everybody pushes Israel to somehow to bring this whole thing to an end, and they lose their ability to stay focused on what has happened here. And what has happened here is a terrible, brutal, even demonic attack on the Israelis on a holiday of all things. And I think, Jody, I think that this is going to go on for a long time.
Yeah, and I agree. I mean, you look at even the United Nations now, the global pressure, like you said, everybody's for Israel when it first happens, but the global pressure is probably going to change. We're already seeing it with the UN calling on Israel to go down a pathway of appeasement or whatever. But I have to say this, I applaud the support for Israel that has been shown by President Biden and Secretary Boykin and Secretary Austin. This is good. America needs to stand with Israel. But this is taking place while we're also providing billions of dollars in support for Ukraine. We've given this billions of dollars, potentially still has not reached them, to Iran. In fact, let me just play a clip here for you that Secretary Austin made today, a statement he made. Play clip 5, please.
The United States is the most powerful country in the world, and we remain fully able to project power and uphold our commitments and direct resources to multiple theaters. So we will stand with Israel even as we stand with Ukraine.
Great comment. I'd like to get your assessment of that. Can our military handle both of these efforts simultaneously?
I'll tell you, from a material perspective, I'm getting very concerned about all of the military equipment that has already gone out, and I support the Ukrainians, but we've got another equation now that we've got to think about in terms of how far can we go with regards to depleting our own supplies to support our allies. And I will tell you, if I had to make a choice, I'm afraid I'd have to go with Israel.
Wow. That's sobering to hear. And yeah, you bring up a great point. What was it, $85 billion or something in that ballpark of weaponry that we left? That much of that has now been taken. Let me throw another equation your way and get your reaction to this. We have this now going on in Ukraine and Israel, but then we have other bad actors in the world. What about an adversary like China trying to go into Taiwan right now, or North Korea doing something crazy? At what point are we stretching ourselves too thin as a U.S. military? In other words, does what's happening now provide an opportunity, maybe that's the best way of asking it, for a China to invade Taiwan right now because we're preoccupied?
Absolutely. And I think we are just about at the breaking point with regards to what we're providing to not only to Israel, but also to what's going on in Russia and the Ukraine. So I think we're there. And now we do have one ace in the hole, and that is our industrial capacity, our capacity to crank out military materiel, weapons, ammunition, missiles, all kinds of things. But we've got to start it now. We've got to get on it now. And I will tell you what that means to me, not being a politician, is we got to cut back on some of this nonsense, and particularly like what it's costing us to maintain an open border and to take care of all the people that are coming across. That is one place, as far as I'm concerned, we ought to start right there and then get our capacity to actually put things out that are going to be useful with both of these allies that I was talking about.
Well, absolutely. Great point. And another thing we've got to get taken care of is the Speaker of the House. I mean, we cannot have a paralyzed Congress when we have so many of these issues facing us as a country that could have massive ramifications. There's another ace in the hole, and I know you would totally agree with this. You were talking from a military perspective, but we have the body of Christ and we have the power of prayer. Now is the time like never before. And one thing I love about the Friday program is calling on our viewers and listeners to commit as they're going to church to pray. I don't know that there has been a more critical time since I've been a part of this program to call on the body of Christ to pray than right now, to pray for Israel, to pray for our world. This is not just a political issue. This is a spiritual issue, what's happening to Israel.
Yeah, do not forget that land that the Israelis live on is covenant land. That land was given to the Israelis. It's not an occupied territory, as so many today out there were talking about. The other thing is, God gives us a very clear message when he says, I will bless those who bless you, and I will curse those who curse you. That means we have to stand with Israel. We are a Christian nation, regardless of what people say. We're a Christian nation. We always turn to God when the chips are down, and now the chips are down not only for us, but for our allies. And we need to remember, we want a blessing, we stand with the Jews.
Could not be better stated than that. General, America is blessed and fortunate to have people like you who have had such critical positions of leadership in our military, and we here at FRC likewise so blessed to have you. Thank you for taking time to join us on Washington Watch and to give your expertise on this issue. God bless you and hope you have a great weekend.
God bless you and thank you, Jody.